This happened right after we moved into our new house. My daughter was 2 years old at the time, and one evening she was just staring at the corner of her room. "What are you doing?" I asked. She didn't answer me. She kept looking at the corner and then back at me. She stood up and walked toward the corner. I followed her and tried to stop her from going further, but she just stared at me with these big, innocent eyes and kept walking until she was right in front of the corner. She stopped and put her hand on the wall and started to slowly move around the corner. She did this like 5 times, and then she ran to her bed and started to cry. "It's okay, sweetheart," I told her. "There's nothing back there." I went behind the bed and looked around to see if maybe she had scraped herself or something, but no, there was nothing there. And I don't have any curtains on my kids' windows, by the way. I always prefer to keep them open so they can get some fresh air. And even though that window was pretty high up, I guess she managed to climb on something and look out of it. I closed it anyway and tucked her in for bed. I thought she was just having some sort of a nightmare because she wouldn't stop crying. So I turned on the monitor in the other room and left her to go to sleep. Every time I checked on her, she was still crying, but she wasn't making a sound. Then I noticed the monitor was kind of glitching out. It was an old one anyway, so I wasn't really surprised. But then the screen went completely black. I sighed, thinking it had finally given up on me, and I went back to what I was doing. About 15 minutes later, I heard my wife scream. I rushed into her room and asked her what happened. "The monitor," she said, pointing at the screen. "She's here." I checked the monitor, and there was this little girl standing in the corner of our daughter's room. She was very pale and her eyes were black. I told my wife to stay in the room with our daughter while I went to check on the monitor. It was weird because when I was standing right next to it, the picture would be fine, but as soon as I stepped away from it, the screen would go black again. At first, I thought it was a wiring problem, but then I realized that the cable wasn't plugged in at all. I unplugged and re-plugged it in, but that didn't help. I turned the monitor off and on again, but it just showed a snowy screen with static. It looked like someone had pressed the power button on the wall, but that was definitely not the case. I went back into the room and my wife was sitting on the bed, holding our daughter close. "Did you see that?" she whispered. I nodded, still feeling kind of confused. Then our daughter spoke. "She's here," she whispered to me. "Who's here?" I asked. She pointed at the corner and then at the monitor. "That girl, she's coming for me." I quickly grabbed the monitor and brought it over to the crib. The girl was right there. She was so close now, but she was still standing motionless like a statue. And she was still watching us. My wife and I decided to spend the night in our daughter's room just to keep her company. We stayed up talking, playing games, and singing songs until 3 in the morning. Our daughter slept through the whole thing, but when we checked on her in the morning, the crib was empty. It was cold, like someone had been lying there not too long ago, and when I went to check on the corner, it was freezing cold. I know people are going to say this is probably some sort of carbon copy of the classic story about the girl in the rocking chair, but I swear to God this is not the case. The difference between that story and this one is that I actually have proof. I never got to find out what happened to the little girl, but I do know that my daughter was never in any danger. She would have never let that creepy girl take her away. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.